Welcome to Story Echelon. If you love captivating short stories, you're in the right place. Here, you'll enjoy Persian stories read in English, helping you improve your language skills while experiencing great tales that don't forget to like and subscribe. Sophie Miller stood at the edge of the gravel driveway, staring up at the imposing structure that loomed before her. Hollow Manor was as breathtaking as it was daunting, its dark stone facade silhouetted against the setting sun. Ivy clung to the walls like an ever-encroaching shadow, and the gnarled branches of ancient trees whispered secrets in the evening breeze. A shiver danced up her spine, but it was a thrill of excitement that sent most of the shivers through her. She was finally here, that as a graduate student in folklore and urban legends, Sophie had spent years reading about haunted houses and the stories intertwined with them, but this was different. This wasn't just a scholarly pursuit. This was an adventure. The invitation had come in the form of a cryptic letter, delivered without a return address, urging her to uncover the truth that lay within the manor's walls. The letter signed off ominously with an invitation. Come for the stories, stay for the secrets. She exhaled sharply, bringing her focus back to the present. Clutching her leather satchel tightly, she stepped forward, muscles tense with anticipation. The trek up the winding path felt longer than it had in her mind, her footsteps crunching on the gravel as she took in the overgrown garden, which seemed to have been abandoned for decades. Wildflowers and weeds trailed up the stone steps leading to the heavy oak door, each step echoing the unease radiating through her body. With an effort, Sophie pulled the door open. It creaked ominously on its hinges, revealing a dark foyer that smelled of dust and time. The rich wood paneling was faded, the brilliant chandelier above hung precariously, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Taking a cautious step inside, she brushed her fingers against the railing of the staircase, noting how the wood felt cool beneath her touch. "Are you Miss Miller?" A voice broke through her thoughts, startling her. She turned to find a tall man with disheveled brown hair and kind, albeit wary, eyes standing in the doorway to a side room. "Yes, I am," Sophie replied, trying to keep her voice steady, though her heart raced. "I'm Jacob, the caretaker," he introduced himself, stepping forward. "I wasn't sure if you would really come." "I wasn't sure either, to be honest," she admitted with a nervous laugh, her grip on the satchel tightening. "But I'm here now." Jacob studied her for a moment before nodding as if to himself. "Fair enough. Welcome to Hollow Manor." As he led her through the dimly lit halls, Sophie felt an odd sensation, as if the walls were listening, their secrets woven into every creak of the floorboards. Jacob explained the layout of the manor, the library, the drawing room, the dining hall, and more. Each room had its charm, but they were all draped in shadows and dust, remnants of a life that once thrived here. After a brief tour, Jacob left her to settle in, promising to return in an hour to discuss the house's history. Sophie chose the library as her temporary sanctuary. Tall bookshelves lined the walls, their contents mostly obscured by dust. She felt drawn to the room's heavy atmosphere, a combination of nostalgia and sorrow that seemed to seep from every pore of the ancient wood as she made herself comfortable in a plush, yet slightly worn, armchair. She opened her satchel to take out her notebook. This would be the perfect opportunity to note her impressions, jot down ideas, and begin her research. Sophie flipped to a blank page and began writing. The air in Hollow Manor feels thick, burdened with stories waiting to be told. I can feel the presence of something here, something alive yet distant. Perhaps the echo of Eleanor Hollow herself, that a sudden gust of wind rattled the window, causing her to jump. She glanced outside, where the sky was turning a deep shade of indigo, the last of the sunlight swallowed by encroaching clouds. The storm they had predicted was upon her faster than she thought, thunder rumbling softly in the distance. Suddenly, a profound silence enveloped the library. Sophie looked around, her senses heightened. It was as if the house held its breath, waiting. Just as she dismissed the feeling as her imagination running wild, she heard it, a faint whisper, so soft it was almost indiscernible. Curiosity piqued. She stood and moved toward the sound. It seemed to be coming from a nearby corner where the shadows gathered thickest, near a set of double doors she hadn't noticed before. Taking a hesitant step closer, she reached for the cold handle, her breath hitching in her throat. With a firm push, the doors creaked open, revealing a darkened room filled with stacks of old furniture draped in sheets. In the center stood a large, ornate mirror, its surface clouded with grime. Sophie stepped inside, curiosity overwhelming her initial trepidation. She extended her hand, brushing away some of the dust from the mirror's frame. And then she saw it, a flicker of movement in the reflection, a glimpse of a figure standing behind her. Heart racing, she spun around, but the room was empty. "Is anyone there?" she called, her voice bouncing back in eerie echoes. Silence answered her query, heavy and thick. Perhaps it was just her imagination, a trick of the dim light or the creeping shadows. Shaking off the daze, she turned back to the mirror. It reflected her pale complexion, wide eyes, and the sigh of relief that coursed through her when she realized she was alone. But something was different. The air crackled with energy, a static charge that sent shivers through her. Sophie leaned closer, peering into the depths of the glass. Instead of her own reflection, she felt as if she was peering through to another world, one filled with whispers and secrets, so close yet just out of reach. The storm outside raged, bolts of lightning illuminating the windows, casting fleeting shadows across the room. Sophie felt the air grow colder with each clap of thunder, as if the house itself was breathing in sync with the tempest. Her heart raced, anticipation building within her. This was more than just a haunted house. This was a portal to a past that demanded to be discovered. The thrill of the unknown compelled her to reach out once more, her fingers grazing the old mirror's surface. Just as she did, another whisper echoed, clearer this time. "Help me." Sophie recoiled at the sound, her breath coming in quick gasps. She dared not believe what she had just heard. Could the tales be true? Was the spirit of Eleanor Hollow reaching out from beyond the veil, seeking release, or was it something more sinister lurking in the shadows of Hollow Manor? With more determination than fear, Sophie stepped back, her heart resolute. She would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. She would not flee the ghostly whispers, but instead embrace them. The night was still young, and in the heart of Hollow Manor, Sophie knew that the Real story was just beginning. Sophie took a step back from the mirror, her mind racing. The whisper was so vivid, so haunting, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that it was merely the echoes of her overactive imagination. Despite that, something inside her stirred, compelling her to dig deeper into the history that lay buried within the walls of Hollow Manor. She backed away from the mirror and returned to the library, her pulse still quickening with every heartbeat. She wanted to immerse herself in the mystery, and the best way to do that was to unearth the secrets of the house and Eleanor Hollow. Sophie powered through the stuffy air of the library, scanning the narrow aisles until she found a stack of old books hidden beneath a layer of dust. They looked weathered yet promising. She picked up the first one, its cover faded and cracking, The Hollow Family, a History. The title intrigued her. This was precisely what she needed. Settling into the armchair with the book open on her lap, Sophie began to read. Pages described the grandeur of the Hollow family, their rise to prominence, and the unfortunate tragedies that befell them, accidents, scandals, and then the most discussed event of all, the disappearance of Eleanor Hollow. As Sophie turned the pages, the rain pattered insistently against the windows, the storm intensifying. Where once the house had felt merely ancient and forgotten, it now seemed alive, each raindrop echoing like footsteps in the ornate halls. She learned that Eleanor, the youngest daughter in a line of privilege, was known for her beauty and intellect, but she was also rumored to have had a fiery spirit that often led her into trouble. Among the townsfolk, stories circulated about her late-night escapades and her peculiar friendships with eccentric locals. It seemed a part of Eleanor longed for adventure outside the constraints of the manor. And then, almost in a whisper concealed by the dusty layers of time, it is said that Eleanor knew secrets buried deep within Hollow Manor, secrets that could unravel the very foundation of her family's legacy. Sophie's heart raced. She had to uncover those secrets. Was this why Eleanor had reached out to her? The thought made her blood tingle with urgency. The old journal from earlier flashed in her mind. Perhaps it held more clues. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, she hurried back to the room with the mirror, now determined to search thoroughly. Dust motes danced in the air as she rummaged through the layers of furniture, the musty smell of old fabric filling her nostrils. Finally, she found the journal tucked away in a narrow drawer of a small writing desk. Its leather cover was embossed with floral patterns, and it felt warm to the touch, as if alive. Gently opening it, Sophie delicately turned the pages, which were filled with elegant script, Eleanor's own hand. The first few pages detailed mundane observations of daily life, but soon, the tone shifted abruptly. I fear I may lose myself in the depths of this manor if I do not find a way to escape its grasp. I have discovered whispers that lead to darkness, hidden within the walls. There is an ancient secret that speaks of a key to freedom, but with it comes great peril. I must tread lightly. Sophie's breath caught as the shadows in the room grew heavier. The mention of a key intrigued her. But what could it unlock? She read on, the entries becoming increasingly erratic, often breaking off mid-sentence. The chandelier sings at midnight. I must find the key before it finds me. Jacob warns me of the dangers. He knows more than he lets on. Sophie's mind swirled with questions, but one stood out among the rest. Who was Jacob, really? The enigmatic caretaker had seemed wary, perhaps even scared. Did he harbor his own secrets about the manor? She needed to confront him. Almost instinctively, she closed the journal and set off in search of Jacob, her resolve steeled. The old wooden floors groaned under her feet as she navigated the winding pathways of the manor. Sophie found him in the drawing room, poring over a stack of documents. He looked up as she entered, his expression shifting to one of alarm. "What's wrong?" he asked, brow furrowed, as if he anticipated something dreadful. "I need to know more about this place," she replied, the urgency in her voice undeniable. "And about Eleanor. Her journal speaks of dangers and secrets. You must know something." Jacob hesitated, glancing toward the large windows where the storm clashed violently against the glass. "You shouldn't be digging into the past, Sophie. It's best to leave it alone. The manor has its own ways of protecting its secrets." "But I'm not afraid," she exclaimed, her passion igniting. "Eleanor reached out to me. I need to understand what happened to her. What was she trying to protect?" He seemed to soften at her conviction, his shoulders relaxing as he set down the papers. Eleanor was, he paused, choosing his words. She was a complicated person. She sought to uncover the truth behind the family's tragedies, believing that there were hidden elements within the manor that contributed to their demise. But sometimes, seeking the truth can lead to danger. Sophie interrupted, her curiosity palpable. "Yes," Jacob conceded. "There are tales, legends that warn of the consequences of unearthing the past. Wild magic, curses, revenge, it's all tied to this place and its history. Not everything can be explained logically. Sometimes, spirits manifest in ways we can't comprehend." Sophie took a breath, the weight of his words settling over her like a shroud. "What about the key?" Eleanor mentioned it in her journal. Jacob's expression darkened. "The key is one of those stories that has survived the years, whispered through the town and spoken of in hushed tones." His gaze turned distant. "It's said to unlock something hidden in the manor that could shed light on the family's darkest secrets. But no one knows what truly lies behind that door, or the consequences of opening it." Invigorated but unsettled, Sophie felt her next move crystallizing in her mind. I need to find it. Consider this carefully, Jacob warned, his eyes narrowing. Some doors are best left closed. But Sophie was already moving, her determination unwavering. If we don't open the door, we'll never know what's behind it, and I believe Eleanor deserves that chance. Jacob watched her for a long moment, then sighed. Very well. If you're determined to pursue this, I will help you. But we must tread carefully. The manor's whispers grow louder at night, more powerful. We'll have to work quickly to unravel its secrets before the storm reveals the true face of its darkness. The storm continued to rage outside, the wind howling around the manor like a malevolent spirit. But within the heart of Hollow Manor, Sophie felt a flicker of hope. Together, she and Jacob would embark on a journey deeper into the mysteries that shrouded the house and the restless spirit of Eleanor Hollow. They worked through the night, each crack of thunder seemingly urging them on. As hour after hour passed, they examined the vast library and the old archives, piecing together folklore and history, hunting for any mention of the key and what secrets it might unveil. Finally, just as midnight approached, Jacob glanced at the ornate grandfather clock in the corner, its pendulum swinging slowly and deliberately. "We should investigate the chandelier she wrote about," he suggested, his voice steady. "If it sings at midnight, perhaps it's connected to the key we're searching for." Sophie nodded, adrenaline coursing through her veins once more. "Let's go." They made their way to the grand foyer beneath the chandelier, the ornate structure a dazzling relic of a time long past. The air crackled with anticipation, as if the very fibers of the house awaited the arrival of the witching hour. As the clock struck 12, a deep rumble resonated through the manor, and the chandelier began to sway gently, its crystals catching the low light and refracting it into 1,000 dancing rainbows. And then they heard it, a soft hum, almost melodic, resonating through the air like a forgotten lullaby. As Sophie stood mesmerized by the sound, the energy in the room shifted dramatically, igniting an electrifying sensation in her chest. "It's alive!" Sophie exclaimed. "The whispers, can you hear them?" "Yes," Jacob whispered, his expression a mixture of awe and fear. "We need to act quickly." They moved closer, and as they stood directly under the chandelier, the hum intensified, enveloping them in a cocoon of warmth. In a moment of instinct, Sophie glanced up at the chandelier, noting several ornate crystals seeming to stir in the glow of the flickering light. An ancient mechanism clicked into place, and the central crystal of the chandelier disengaged with a low thud, lowering itself before them. Its surface glimmered enticingly, revealing intricate engravings that resembled the patterns in Eleanor's journal. Jacob's eyes widened in disbelief. Could this be it? With bated breath, Sophie reached for the crystal, feeling the warmth radiating from it. "It must be. It has to be. It's the key." She lifted it, feeling a surge of energy pulse through her, connecting her to the very essence of the manor. They exchanged awestruck glances. The crystal, undeniably significant, seemed to hum with life itself, as if it carried the weight of the secrets they'd sought. "Now what?" Jacob asked, his voice strained. Sophie glanced around, suddenly acutely aware of the swirling shadows clinging to the corners of the room. "We find the door it unlocks," she declared, her heart racing in anticipation. The two of them shared a determined look, then ventured forth, the crystal glowing softly in Sophie's hand, guiding them through the halls of the manor. The house seemed to pulse with energy, its whispers growing louder as they approached what felt like an apex of activity. They reached a door at the end of a narrow corridor they hadn't initially noticed, a door that had always been shrouded in darkness, its surface carved with intricate symbols and designs. "This has to be it," Sophie breathed, steeling her voice. "Are you prepared for what lies beyond?" Jacob's tone was serious, laced with concern. Sophie nodded, her face resolute. We need to unlock it for Eleanor. As she inserted the crystal into the keyhole, she felt a tremor coursing through the house, and the whispers erupted into a chorus of haunting echoes, snatches of conversations, cries, and laughter. Then, with a sudden click, the door creaked open, and a rush of cold air spilled out, wrapping around them like a shroud. With a deep breath, they stepped inside, the door closing behind them with a finality that reverberated in the silence. What awaited them within the chamber was unlike anything they could have prepared for. Rich tapestries draped the walls, depicting the legacy of the Hollow family in vivid colors. An enormous table stood at the center, covered in faded documents and artifacts, a treasure trove of history lying in wait. But it was the painting above the table that drew Sophie's gaze. It depicted Eleanor, her eyes filled with sorrow and longing, as if she yearned to be freed from some unseen burden. And just below her in the painting, shadows curled, almost alive, hinting at a darkness that lurked beneath the surface. As the glowing crystal pulsed in Sophie's hand, the whispers in the room grew louder, morphing into low cries filled with pain. The atmosphere shifted, filling with dread, and Sophie's heart raced. "Eleanor, are you here?" Sophie called out, attempting to pierce the suffocating silence that in response. The shadows around the painting began to twist, coalescing into a ghostly form that took on the figure of Eleanor herself. She hovered just above the ground, her expression a mixture of gratitude and despair. "Seek the truth," Eleanor's spectral voice echoed, a melody of sorrow. "But beware, for in the darkness lies a choice between freedom and despair." Sophie's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean? What must we do?" Eleanor's gaze seemed to pierce through her, and for a moment, Sophie felt as if she could see not just the spirit, but her history, the weight of her pain. "The key to my freedom lies not just within this manor, but within the hearts of those who dwell in its shadow. Find the truth that binds us, and you will uncover the secret. But choose wisely, for truths reveal consequences." Before Sophie could respond, the vision began to fade. "Eleanor, wait!" Sophie cried, but the spirit waned, leaving only the echoes of her lament, fractured and sorrowed. The air in the chamber thickened once more, the shadows swirling ominously. Sophie turned to Jacob, uncertainty flooding her features. "What does it all mean? What choice?" "I don't know," Jacob admitted, his expression grave. "But we can't leave it like this. We must investigate further. We need to decipher what ties Eleanor and her family to the darkness." With renewed determination, they began to sift through the documents strewn across the table, seeking answers. Pages revealed Eleanor's attempts to confront and understand the darkness that clung to her family. A darkness rooted in betrayal, unfulfilled ambitions, and a loyalty that had twisted into something grotesque. Hours slipped by as they pored over the contents of the chamber, each piece of paper unraveling threads of a narrative that spanned decades. They read about a lost treasure hidden within the manor, a fortune that had drawn greed and betrayal into its grasp. As dawn approached, Sophie discovered a faded map, its surface marked with symbols that matched those adorning the locked door. Her fingers traced the lines that led deeper into the estate's grounds, toward a crypt hidden beneath the manor. "Jacob, look! This must be where they buried their secrets." She pointed excitedly, a sense of revelation washing over her. "The key must be connected to this crypt. This is where we'll find out the truth." Jacob studied the map closely, tension etched on his face. "If we go there, we're not just facing ghosts of the past. We're risking everything. We must make sure we're ready for whatever awaits us." "I know the risks," Sophie said earnestly, "but Eleanor's spirit deserves peace. We have to see this through." With that shared resolve, they gathered their courage and prepared to descend into the depths of Hollow Manor, to confront the darkness that had lingered so long, that had ensnared Eleanor and her family, and to seize the truth that could finally free its restless spirit. As they made their way through the narrow passages leading to the crypt, the temperature dropped sharply. The storm had receded, but a chilling breeze accompanied them, whispering warnings of what lay ahead. Each step resonated with uncertainty, the very air crackling with static. They reached the crypt entrance, evident by a heavy stone door engraved with ominous symbols. It mirrored the one that housed Eleanor's painting. Sophie felt a deep connection forming. The glowing crystal pulsed in her hand, urging her onward. "Are you ready?" Jacob's voice was steady but edged with trepidation. Sophie nodded, determination pressing her forward. "Yes." Together, they pushed the massive door open, the sound echoing through the stone corridors. Inside lay a small chamber dimly lit by shafts of light filtering through cracks in the stone. Skeletons of forgotten stories lay scattered across the floor. Bones, relics, and decay, remnants of all that the Hollow family had buried. That in the center was an intricately carved sarcophagus, its form adorned with a stunning angelic figure holding an ornate key. Sophie's heart raced again. This had to be it. The key to unlock the truth. Just as they approached, a deep shudder rolled through the crypt. Shadows flared to life, coalescing into dark figures that loomed against the walls, their voices tangled in furious whispers. "Leave this place." One of the voices boomed, resonating through the chamber like thunder. "You awaken what should remain asleep." Sophie stood her ground, gripping the crystal tightly. "We seek only the truth. Eleanor deserves to be free, to be at peace." The ghostly figures hesitated, their forms flickering as if they were unsure how to respond. "Peace is but a whisper," another voice hissed. "You know not what you challenge." But Sophie pressed on. "What is bound here, what enslaves you, must be revealed. We can break these chains together." The specters howled in anguish, their forms rippling like smoke caught in a tempest. Outlined against the swirling darkness, Eleanor's figure emerged, vibrant and fierce. "Fear not the shadows," she declared, her voice echoing powerfully, "but also fear their truths." With the energy of the crystal intensifying, Sophie stepped forward, feeling an undeniable pull toward the sarcophagus. "Eleanor, I will help you, but you must guide me." The angelic figure on the sarcophagus seemed to glow brighter as Eleanor's spectral essence enveloped it. "The key is not just a relic of the past. It binds you to the present. You must decide." Sophie reached out for the sarcophagus. The moment her fingers touched the cold stone, a vision erupted before her eyes, chaotic images flashing like a broken film reel. She saw the hollows, their greed, their betrayals, and the tragedy that had unfolded within these very walls. But in the wreckage of loss, she glimpsed hope, a family torn apart by secrets, yet caught in the threads of love and sorrow. A choice loomed in her mind, solidifying with each heartbeat. "I understand," she gasped. "I choose to unveil the truth." As the words resonated through the crypt, light exploded from the crystal in her hand. The shadows recoiled, their anguished cries rising in pitch, intertwining with Eleanor's. "Do it," Eleanor urged. "Free us." With newfound resolve, Sophie placed her hand on the angel figure atop the sarcophagus, invoking the energy swirling within the chamber. The moment her fingers connected, the angelic figure vibrated, and the world around her dissolved into brilliant light that a cacophony erupted. The voices of those bound in darkness erupted in a final chorus. "The truth is unveiled." As the brilliance enveloped them, the shadows broke apart in a shattering flash, revealing the crypt in its true state. No longer a prison of despair, but a sanctuary of memory. The heavy air lightened, filling with warmth. Eleanor stood before Sophie, glowing with peace. "You have chosen wisely, child of light. My family's secrets are laid bare, and the cycle is broken. Go with my gratitude, As the last remnants of darkness faded, Sophie felt the weight of the years lift from her shoulders. The sorrow tethered to Hollow Manor dissolved, replaced by a cleansing light, as if laughter had begun to replace screams. Together, she and Jacob exited the crypt, the early morning light streaming through the manor's windows. The oppressive silence had transformed into a soft, gentle hum of a new day. Outside, the storm clouds were banished, leaving a pristine blue sky in their wake. Sophie smiled, her heart swelling as she looked back at the once foreboding structure. Hollow Manor had been transformed, its haunting whispers receding into a tender memory. "What now?" Jacob asked, awestruck and relieved. Sophie knew their journey was far from over. History had been reframed, but it still needed to be told. With certainty in her voice, she replied, "Now we share the stories. The truth deserves to be known, and Eleanor deserves to be remembered." And with that, she stepped into the light, ready to tell the tale of Hollow Manor and the truth that had set its spirit free.